Hey guys, what's up? It's Luke here from Thunk Tank Podcast. We've got a part 2 Seinfeld analysis episode here, which is essentially, we recorded it right after part 1. So we just kept drinking the delicious beer from Treehouse Brewing Company and recorded for about another hour. So hope you'll like it. I'm currently recording this intro here in Istanbul, Turkey. I've had some craft beer here, so if you want to check out what the craft beer scene is like in a totally different country, I posted some of those pictures on our Instagram. I think we're at Thunk Tank Podcast there. In terms of the audio for this episode, there were some issues with my brother Eric's microphone, or maybe just the soundboard is a little bit messed up, I think. So his audio was cutting in and out. It took me, these past 2 weeks to slowly edit through the episode. I've tried to turn the gain up when he's talking and turn it back down. So it's listenable. So if you hear that stuff, that's what's going on. But it is listenable and hopefully doesn't bother you too much. Quick shout out to all of our Patreon supporters. We have a Patreon account where you can donate as little as $1 per episode. That helps us keep this thing going. Hope you'll consider contributing. We do upload these Drunk Tank episodes there where after we finish an episode, we'll just keep chatting for another hour and have another beer, and those get pretty fun. We also have a blog you can check out at thunktankpodcast.wordpress.com. By the way, all these links are in the episode description. And we write out some things. We didn't write anything for these Seinfeld episodes, but in general, we try to write a short blog post for each episode. Yeah, so if you like Seinfeld, I'll give the same disclaimer as we did last episode. If you don't really know Seinfeld, I'll just tell you, you probably won't know what the fuck is going on in this episode. But we did delve into things like what is our favorite episode. We talked about the show's long-term trajectory in 3 segments. We talked about Ramon the pool boy. We talked about Newman eating frozen yogurt. Hey, how about another round of strawberries for me and my friends? We talked about David Puddy helping Kramer install, quote, a much-needed and much-appreciated garbage disposal in his shower. Again, these are warning references. If you didn't get those references, this episode is not for you. That's all I can say. I did warn you. So I'm flying back to the States in a few days here, and we've got some fun topics for future episodes. I think we've got colonization in 2 parts. We're going to do historical colonization and then future colonization to interplanetary species type stuff. I've got a good episode prepared for the intellectual dark web to figure out what the hell's going on with that. And Johnny is going to be up from North Carolina, up in New York, so we're going to do our very first, all of us in the same room, Thunk Tank episode. If you haven't figured out, we're normally Skyping in with Johnny, so we're excited to all be in one place. I think that about does it. If you have any topics you want us to delve into in future episodes, please hit us up at email, Twitter, wherever. We'll see it, and we'll definitely highly consider it. All right, enjoy the episode. Believe it or not, this is a Seincast. Please leave a listen at the beep. We got real drunk and we added some thunk, then got more drunk. Come step in the tank, grab a beer. Oh, you better believe it, buddy. Conversation.
What am I?
Boom, part 2 is going.
Right.
What do you say to your brothers, Joe? All right, Ramon. So, if you don't know the show of Seinfeld... Where's the beer I should be drinking here? Anyway, what were you saying? Welcome to part 2 of Seinfeld analysis. Let me make sure I hit record. We're back. We're back. So we just made a few more Seinfeld references.
What's the deal with 2-part podcasts? I mean, just do it all at once. That's Jerry's commentary. He doesn't like our...
Oh, was that a Jerry impression?
That was a very bad Jerry. My Jerry is not very good. What's the deal with all the cocks I can't get enough of? Oh, my God. That was repressed homosexual Jerry.
So in part 1, we were drinking and talking about Seinfeld, and now we are still drinking and talking about Seinfeld.
We're trying not to show any type of growth here.
Yeah, we're trying to mirror the show and be...
What's the rule? No growth, no
hugs, no lessons or learning. Yeah.
See, we're drunk.
We're thunk. We're good.
Yeah, we've been thunking for a bit.
We invented a new word for this reason.
I sit corrected.
You thunk corrected, yeah.
Well, he is sitting. That was very accurate.
So let me just say the thing about All Right, Ramon, because it's worth more attention than it gets. There are certain mini lines within Seinfeld that are so fucking perfect, even though they're just filling a stupid minor little thing. And there's a moment, and if you know Seinfeld decently, you possibly might not know what I'm talking about, so I'll give the quick summary, which is Jerry goes to a gym, and one of the guys that cleans the pool has confused his relationship with Jerry as being friendship, even though it's just them waving at each other when Jerry goes to work out and swim and whatnot. And so one time, they find themselves hanging out all day because Ramon showed up at Jerry's apartment and just tagged along and hung out with him all day, even though Jerry didn't want anyone to hang out with him, right? In fact, the reason he said, I have errands to do, is to try and get rid of the guy, right? And the guy says, I have some time, I'll tag along. Like, I'm not doing anything.
I'm up for stuff.
And Jerry this is Ramon. And we've all encountered people like that don't catch our signals.
But Jerry doesn't have any response, so he goes, all right. Yeah. Like, he doesn't have the cue to be like, no, this is where I want this to stop.
He could have stopped it if he insisted further, but he just let it happen. He's like, let's see what happens, kind of thing. Here. And Ramon's following him around everywhere. He's driving Jerry crazy. And eventually Jerry gets on a subway, turns around, looks at Ramon and goes, all right, Ramon. And Ramon's like, what? He's like, let's part ways here. Like, let's end this, right?
I think we should probably go our separate ways. Like, he breaks up.
And then what does Ramon say, like, with... Maybe not the first line, but within 10 seconds.
Because I'm a pool boy.
Yeah.
No, he goes,
you think you're better than me because I'm a pool boy,
it's because
right?
I'm a pool boy. And Jerry's response is not like, that's ridiculous. It has nothing to do with that because, like, yeah, you are a weird pool boy. But that's not why I don't want to hang out with you. Like, that's only part of it.
Room for 3 friends.
Yeah.
No, that's a different one.
No, that's that line. That's that. Line.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he says, I really only have room.
I thought it was when he broke up with his friend.
No, that was Ramon.
That started crying?
No, that was...
No, that's his buddy who has
the Knicks tickets.
No, that's somebody different. Yeah. Ramon is
breaking up with your friend.
Okay.
That was the guy who was like an asshole, who was just like an asshole to the waitress and like made her cry. And he's just like, I don't think we should be friends anymore. And the guy starts crying. And he's like, all right, we'll be friends.
Ping pong table. I was friends with him. Yeah. I would have been friends with Mussolini if he had a ping pong.
That's an early one.
So in part 2 here, I think we did a lot of like more zoomed out things. But I wanted to talk more about how the second half of Seinfeld is very different from the first half.
What do you mean by second half?
Meaning like season 7, 8, 9.
See, for me, it's season 8 or 9 because I think Larry David leaves after like season 7.
After 7.
Who? Larry? Larry?
That was the friend I was trying to look
Yeah,
for.
Joel was the friend Jerry had to break up with and cried.
Larry left after 7.
Yeah, I think it picks up pace sort of, and you lose a lot of the minutia of just the banter. After season 7, it's still there to some extent.
Just crazier events.
Well, it becomes like it almost reminds me more of a show like Always Sunny after season 7. Whereas I always divide it by, I call it like early Seinfeld, middle Seinfeld, and late Seinfeld. And early is seasons 1 through 3, and then middle I would say is like 4 through 7, and late would be 8 and 9.
Which is funny. You take a composer like Beethoven, and how do they divide his life into these like epic categories where he was doing this kind of thing. Then he became this kind of thing. So you call it early Beethoven, middle Beethoven, late Beethoven. Yeah. And the late stuff is the stuff that gets really deep and really dark and really intense to listen to.
Wow, that's heavy.
Right before he died.
Shit.
Right?
Well, not here.
In Seinfeld, you can actually.
All right, Luke.
you can actually see it because the reason why I say I don't just divide it in half, but I divide it in 3 sections is because the early seasons of 1 through 3, they really are finding their voice. The episodes are so much slower,
and they'll admit that when you ask them, like in
then middle, they really hit their stride with Larry, and then once Larry leaves, it kind of the pace just picks up even to an even more insane degree with the last couple seasons, I think.
Yeah.
So I always think of them in
What?
terms
So
of
what
like
is what is late compared to middle? When does middle end? After 7?
I would say after 7.
And then 8 and 9 are late.
Yeah, I would say 8 and 9.
Okay, I can see that.
Because if you think about the episodes
first
in
2
8 or 9,
seasons are obviously early, right? Like
and almost awkwardly so.
Like 3 to 4, somewhere in there, to like 6 or 7 is middle.
Well, there's some,
and then the rest is late, right?
Yeah. There's some episodes early on that, like, honestly, like the some of the episodes I don't like are in the first couple seasons, because there's great episodes too, of course, but some of them are just they don't quite hit the right beat.
There are some dead ones in the first 2 seasons. Yeah.
They pulled a Darren too. They pulled a Bewitched, and they just replaced Jerry's dad.
Yeah, they did replace Jerry's dad.
Dull.
They're better moves.
Oh, totally.
Yeah, but it's still always just like, we're just gonna change the actor and not address it. Same character, same name.
Yeah. Because they do that in Seinfeld. Like later on, they take that energy
replace
and
Lloyd
run with
Braun,
it.
too.
They just like make fake things happen all the time, right?
Yeah.
So when they change characters and don't address it at all, it's sort of like a middle finger to us. It's like, yeah, you're accepting this universe where it's things aren't real.
That Morty Seinfeld change, there's no way Larry thought they were about to go on that run, like a 9-year.
Yeah.
True.
Well,
Yeah.
for him,
Well,
7
also,
years.
not only that, but he didn't know that actor would develop its character. Like, because a character is so much the actor. For example, George Costanza didn't know, like Jason Alexander didn't know who George Costanza was when he auditioned for
Well, he
that
said
part.
he tried to audition it as Woody Allen.
Yeah, he said he kind of saw it as like a Woody Allen character, right?
Yeah.
And then maybe 8 episodes in, there was a conversation where he's thinking, Larry, listen, like nobody would do or say what you're making George say. And Larry's like, what are you talking about? That happened to me. This is exactly what I said. And then George realized, like, oh, I'm Larry. Like, and then it became clearer after, like, as the seasons progressed.
The voice is found.
The voice I know from Curb is matching up with later Costanza.
It syncs up totally.
That happened with Kramer too. Kramer
didn't really know himself, right?
Well, he said Larry and Jerry weren't going to approach him about it. They wanted him to figure it out, but that Kramer at first was playing Kramer as dumber than everybody else. Like, not just the wild card, but dumber. And there was like a point halfway through the first season, maybe into the second season, they said, where it clicked. And Kramer started playing that character like he was the only sane one. Like, everything that was happening outside his world was the insanity. And he was smarter than everyone. And Jerry and Larry.
And he was also really zoomed out, so like he knew things other people didn't know.
Right.
Like, Jerry, you can't call a dentist, some separate thing. Like, they're dentists, they're people.
Why do they
And
need
it's like,
your
Kramer,
phone number
you're
when
confused.
ask
I'm
for your
talking
phone
about
number when
dentists.
you're trying to buy batteries at Radio Shack? I don't know. Like, he's aware of his own limitations,
Like, he thought everyone else was crazy. And the second he started to do that, they were like, yep, he's got Kramer.
Yeah. And then he had these weird pockets of like competence, like with the Miss America pageant. He was like really skilled at that.
Oh, like so much so that he makes a legit
Or was
coach.
he? Maybe he
Who
wasn't,
knows?
right? We only got to see him coaching her, and she seemed to approve of his coaching, right? But we never got to see anybody else. Like, if they showed a real
If I've told you
pageant-
once, I've told you 100 times. Poise counts.
Yet maybe everything he told her was like bullshit. Like we have to kind of like trust in this idea that like sometimes Kramer might.
Well,
be
that's like when he fixes Elaine's back,
really
and he's like,
right.
He's like, oh yeah, this is the whatever method. I learned it from a guy like somewhere, and then
And Elaine's like, you are the kind of person that would have learned that
from pain
a
comes
guy
pleasure, and he fixes her back, but he genies her too.
Right, it's not a real fix. It's a very
Well, it
temporary.
is a real
bike off
fix. It is a
anytime.
real fix, though. But she fucked up because he says, "You're sleeping on a bed. You should be sleeping on a wooden board for 2 weeks." And she goes, "You didn't say that." He goes, "It's common sense."
And it's like,
is
Kramer,
it?
that is not common sense. Nobody
but no,
has
no,
that
he
as their
did-
bed.
She said, I'd give the bike to anyone that could make me feel better right now. Not stay better.
Right.
He just
Yeah.
made her feel better right then. He didn't
Newman
promise it would
determines
keep.
That the best move is to
Cut
the bike down the middle.
And
That's
Elaine
your
is just so
answer?
over. She's
Destroy
like,
the
sure. Yeah, she's like, all right, whatever, let's do it.
Only the bike's true owner would rather see it given away than.
And then, like, there's another classic Seinfeld dramatization where they're taking some like small scale meaningless issue like who gets to own a shitty bike. It's not even like a nice mountain bike or
No, it's
something.
like a little girl's bike or something. Yeah.
And then like they have to decide through some like deep philosophical person, which is Newman apparently. He's always the deep philosophical person that they go to for the big problems. Like when they have to kill that dog, not kill it, but they think they're going to kill it and then they just kidnap it, right?
I guess that's okay.
And then also the fucking weirdest Seinfeld moment is like when they show Kramer just like in his like dream world by the tree
with the corn
dog
cob pipe.
and the corn cob pipe.
Scariest.
It's like, is that what Kramer's dreams are? Are we to
that's
believe
right.
that?
Pretty much.
The Huck Finn outfit.
Yeah.
With pants rolled.
And the dog's like going for his throat, the little dog. Yeah.
All right, Eric, I have a even if you don't get this, which you might, because there's no way to phrase this question without giving it away. But what is the best random thing that for both of us has stood out from one particular episode? It's just one very quick moment, a random thing that is so hilariously like deliberate, yet it doesn't really mean anything, I don't think, but it's like it's just there and it stands out.
It's a line. It's a quote, a line, or no?
These pretzels are making me thirsty.
It's not so much of a line like if you
These pretzels are making me
it's more
thirsty.
of like Seinfeld really requires like silence a lot, right? And body gestures as that silence happens, and of course the silence is filled with like the fake laughter they put in.
Yeah.
But this is not a line per se.
Yeah, you're gonna have to come back. Let me.
As George once said to Kramer.
We won't come back to it. I'll just say it.
Luke, it's George once said to Kramer, what the hell are you talking about?
Hampton's episode. That's your hint.
Wait, what is the clue?
That's breathtaking. That one, the baby.
Yep. This is not a line. It's just an action that stands out as hilariously like deliberate, but like what the fuck does that mean? That's so weird. You'll know exactly when I tell you.
And keep going.
So I'm thinking of Jerry yawning when he comes to sit down at the table.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So they're at this big breakfast, and now
Exaggerated
George has been up early, and he's been doing what appears to be a really kind thing, thanking the hosts
Which we
for
should know
having them
better.
at their house, and he's cooking this big breakfast.
It turns out to be a revenge
But
breakfast.
it's a revenge breakfast. He's filling it with lobster to fuck with people. Specifically, Jerry's girlfriend.
Because it's her religious beliefs.
Yeah, because she doesn't eat. I don't know. Was it
That's a pretty dark George moment.
It's not
too,
kosher.
Seen him naked.
kosher? Yeah, and
And it all makes sense, yeah.
and
We've all seen that situation
Yeah.
play out.
you see George like serving the breakfast. And then Jerry and his girlfriend come from like the upstairs, and they go to
Yeah.
sit down at the table. And the way Jerry puts his arms out and yawns, he goes, "Ugh." and it's this careless, childlike yawn. It's like nothing matters. Like life's so easy. It just works out for me all the time. I never have to stress.
He has another one of those when he gets out of the lie with Peterman and having dinner with Peterman, but George gets stuck.
Oh yeah.
Elaine bails on them. Jerry has to bail. George gets stuck with him, but Jerry.
He didn't make it.
comes to Jerry home on his couch.
Talking to Elaine about it. Yeah.
He's watching the Giants game, and it just says, "You have got to love sports." And Jerry's got a big bowl of popcorn.
Oh yeah.
Goes, like hand in the air, eats
Yeah,
a
fist
bowl of
bump.
popcorn, and it's just like, dude, everything works out for him.
Yeah, but and
Even
he
Steven.
he has this sense of like I am a good boy. Johnny, we were talking when he does the whole thing in Babu's place, like he goes in and eats at this Pakistani restaurant.
My mother is right. I am a good
I am
boy.
a good boy. And that's the difference between George and Jerry is George was told what a bad boy he was all the time.
Yeah.
Now, Jerry was told what a good boy he was, and it helped him a lot, right? But one of the problems is Jerry was never told he was a bad boy, and so he developed into this
How
sociopath.
could anybody not like you?
Exactly. And so he doesn't really consider, like, are my actions affecting people? Should I care about that? I mean, I don't know if Jerry is, like, legit sociopath status, but he's definitely, like, exhibits signs of that kind of vibe where it's like, well, the only reason I would care about what you think is if it affects me. If it doesn't affect me, then I'll just stop caring about that because it's just annoying. It's a distraction. It doesn't help me.
If it does affect him, though, oh my god, he goes all in.
Yeah. Like, for example, here's a great one. And this is true for a lot of the characters. So, like, Kramer and Jerry's father get into this like little shared business, the raincoat business, right? They're selling these old raincoats from I guess
the beltless raincoat.
The
wasn't
beltless,
it? Wasn't it?
the executive. That's what it was called.
Executive.
And so
It's just a raincoat with less features. You know,
it's not a particular.
It's a raincoat you can't close, so you can't keep the rain out.
But Kramer has a connection because Kramer always has connections, right?
Yeah.
So Kramer's trying to sell to this whatever guy in Manhattan, and Morty gets the raincoats brought up. They're doing business together, basically.
The pawn shop.
It's some kind of clothes shop, like. And so
clothes shop.
Or no, the used clothes.
Kramer's
What was
getting
the name of that place?
He had a classic name, that guy.
Randy. No, what was it?
I think it was called like Randy's.
Was it Randy's? I got that from Randy's because the dog bites off the label.
Where's my cabana wear?
I love those clothes.
So Kramer's getting 25% to participate in this deal with Jerry's dad. Now, another part of this episode is Jerry's parents skip out on a paella dinner with George's parents.
What am I gonna do with all that paella?
And so they made a bunch of paella, and Jerry's parents like kind of bailed, and they lied about it. And the reason is because they don't like the Costanzas; they don't want to go there.
We don't care for
George,
them.
even though George admits his parents
We
are
don't
crazy,
care for them.
he takes that personally, and so he's the one that convinces Kramer that you're getting a bad deal on the raincoats because he wants to fuck over the raincoat deal because he wants revenge on Jerry's parents for not wanting to hang out with his parents,
Yeah,
even though he
that's
knows his
dark.
parents are crazy and nobody should want to hang out with them. Like, it's just
He
like
doesn't wanna
this
hang out with them.
web of confusion inside George Costanza's mind, yet he still does that one thing because he can get something from it. He's like, you know what? Fuck Jerry's parents. They don't want to hang out with my parents. They think they're better than my parents. It's like, yeah, they do because they are.
You've admitted that, John.
Yeah. That's the truth. You know about it.
Yeah, they're all saying things that he said about his own parents. They're all in agreement about it,
Yeah.
but he just
They all agree,
He still
like-
has to just those are the rules though. Like they're weird little
But also, like, George had to deal with the wrath of his parents complaining about the whole thing. So he thinks, like, well, if I had to deal with that, like, somebody else has to deal with something. And so he's like, I'm going to make a Mr. Seinfeld and Kramer fight over the price of who gets what for the raincoats. Some meaningless, pointless deal anyways. Like, why would George
So-
even know about the raincoat thing?
Yeah.
So since we have
Like,
Since
you,
we
you
have-
told me you're fixing
he-
somebody's fence tomorrow or whatever. Like, it's not like you called me last week and told me about that, right? These are minutia details in people's lives. Why are they so important? Why does everyone know
they don't
about
have
everything?
it. They don't have it because they're not men. They have nothing else going on. You know.
Yeah, like I don't know what to say.
But so since I have Eric here, who is a repository, my favorite thing in Seinfeld is
I think I don't even want to say, but
Yeah.
no, but like you're a bit quicker on the encyclopedic part than Luke is. He gets distracted sometimes when you try to have it.
no, I stay right on
Shots
point
fired.
always.
Anyways,
Or do I do rail slips, Johnny?
just
Not
a quick
derails.
slip.
Rail slips.
Yeah, just a rail slip. Yeah, I like that.
If you're not familiar, you should
It's
listen
just
to
a
our
rail
last
slip,
episode.
Ossifer.
right.
It's just a quick little rail slip. It is like the jokes where you're walking into the room and you hear the tail end out of context. I had to look it up, the wording, but one of my favorite is the Newman one in the frozen, the no-fat yogurt.
Oh, God.
That Jerry walks in and Newman's talking to all his male buddies, and he says, well, I wouldn't hear of it. I said, nice try, Granny, and I sent her to the back of the line, and they all die laughing.
I put that.
He's like,
in
oh,
with-
hello, Jerry. Those are my favorite.
I put that with like the doorman and his buddies. Like you come in on the end of it. I know it's Jerry's delusion, but
Yeah.
you come in on the end of a joke and they're all just laughing. Like that's Newman and his male buddies. Like
Yeah.
And there's no way you can even piece together how it might have been a real story. Like
No,
it
no,
sounds
that
so
one you-
clearly like a
I'll
performance.
take another
story.
round of strawberries for me and my friends.
For me, my buddies.
But just the fact that like Newman, who's the reviled, like hated one, you can't imagine how anyone could like him, and then you see him holding court and like, oh no, he's like
But it's not
popular
with real
amongst
people.
his
It's
own
with
Right, what if-
his other male creatures, you know?
what if
Like, they're not
he's
real.
the
They're just sucking down yogurt.
He's the Jerry in just another world.
Oh, another way to.
Oh, he might
good,
be.
Good segue into like the
Yeah, Bizarro world.
The Bizarro world.
Oh,
Yeah.
I love that episode.
Oh, he's there.
I want
He's
to
just
ask.
swinging, it's
Hold,
fine.
well, hold on. I wanted to. Yeah, we're getting a little spotty on the Skype here, but I just wanted to ask Eric. of other things like that. My other favorite one is from a different movie, Dumb and Dumber.
Oh, such
and
a great
it's
movie.
when
I know exactly what you're
so
going to say.
she said, "Do you love me?" And I said, "No, but that's a real nice ski mask." I think
Dude.
that's it, right?
That's exactly
Like what
That's
what
the line,
story
right?
must end like that?
Johnny. I was
Deconstruct
I was
that.
at a wedding, Johnny, like 2 weeks ago, and the photographer was going around, and there was a group of us standing there drinking, and she said, like, make it candid, like, tell a joke. And that's what I said to them. I said the Dumb and Dumber end of that joke,
Awesome.
and we all burst out in fake laughter, but she was like, just completely didn't get it.
But what
that's
did
not
she
the
want you to
end-to-end-
say suddenly? Like, did she want you to be like, knock knock, who's there? Like Santa Claus.
We laughed, and she clicked the picture, but like,
Yeah, but you all probably laughed like this, like
She had no idea
sarcastic,
what
like
happened.
bullshit.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, douchebag laugh.
That's amazing.
Newman and his mail buddies.
But it's like,
Wait,
where
so
do
are
you
there
get off
any-
laughing
are
at
there
people,
any more of
mailmen?
those?
I'm so glad you brought that line up, though, Johnny.
I love that line. I think about that line often in my life.
How
That's
often?
We should put it in the quote book.
I still have that somewhere.
Oh, you were
you
asking,
really have
does
it?
the code book still exist?
I think I have it.
Burn it.
I think
You
I
have a
do.
Fireplace?
I got to burn it.
Yeah,
No, there's
I
some
mean-
good quotes in there. But are there any other moments like that in Seinfeld you can think of, where like they walk in and like I think Peterman must have some, right?
What is
Where, like,
the
Elaine
Peterman one
walks
we
in and
quoted
he's saying
today?
something like
Peterman one
hypersexual.
where You catch. He's on the phone, but he hangs up with Elaine and then just goes, "You there on the motorbike? Sell me one of your melons."
I want to
yeah.
buy some of your melons.
And like they did not
Maybe
need to
beat
put
me
that
apart,
in.
but it'll
Like,
always
why
be
did they
relevant.
choose that
Yeah.
line, right?
Irrelevant.
There's a great Peterson line
Peterman.
when Peterman. I mean, I'm looking at a Jordan Peterson book under me, so
You would do that.
you would.
where George somehow there's a woman stuck in an ATM, and instead
It's
of
a man.
Peterman entering
Give me
his
your
own
code, man.
ATM code, right? Because like why
give me your
why
code,
doesn't
man.
Peterman have an ATM code?
George.
He just
I
points.
forgot it. George,
George, you're
obviously
lying. It's
lying.
clear. Anyone can see that.
Dude, I love how Peterman sees through George's lies. Better
I don't
than anyone.
believe that
When
for a
he tries to get out of
But he doesn't care. He just calls it out. He doesn't say, "Why are you lying about your ATM?"
Yeah.
He just goes,
You go,
"George,
"I
it's clear you're lying. Just give me
Anyone
your
can
code."
see that.
Well, because he calls him out earlier. He calls him out earlier that episode.
Yeah, that's
where he's at.
hilarious.
He's
Elaine
at.
and George.
He's at Peterman's mom's funeral, and Elaine makes up the excuse for why she has to leave, and
Right.
and it's like, oh, some like women's
Just
benefit
to speak
thing.
at a women's
She has
conference.
Yeah, and
A
George
women's
says, "Oh yeah, I'm also speaking," and Peterman just
At
goes,
a men's
"I don't
conference.
believe that
He says
for
at
a minute."
He says at a men's conference.
Yeah, he's like, "I don't buy that for a minute," and Elaine's like,
But
"See ya."
but he's also
just for
still wants to
men.
hang out with George, even
Yeah.
though he realizes each time he's lying to him. Yeah.
Everyone can see that, George.
Everyone can see that, George. Give me your code.
Like how obvious Larry David makes that is unbelievable. Like
It's so good.
Well, it's
I
so
realized
obvious
something
that
else.
it's
I
a
was
joke,
watching-
right? It's like
No, I
this
was-
universe couldn't exist where someone every
Yeah.
time you tell a subtle lie, if someone were like, "It's obvious you're lying to me, Joe," like you'd be like, "What the fuck?" Like
I'd be
it's
like,
not reality, right?
Yeah, I'd be like, I guess I'll go to your mom's funeral.
I watched that episode last week, and I noticed something I didn't notice for the first time before. Is it's a code on a keypad, so it's like a phone. You can give the word Bosco and type it Bosco and type it out. But if George, I think George is just too dumb to remember the numbers.
Kramer
he
calls him
remembers
out
it as
earlier in the
Bosco.
episode. He says, "You're not a numbers man." When he tries to guess
Yeah.
George's code, you're right.
What's
Yeah.
your temptation,
Yeah.
though?
Yeah,
Yours
weak,
come back to the
You're a
cocoa bean.
spineless.
You're a portly fella.
I love how he says cocoa bean.
yeah,
And see, that's another
But a
way they're
cocoa
showing
bean.
like
But so-
Kramer has a weird
George-
intelligence. He
yeah.
guesses
Kramer's
George's
smarter
code.
than all of them, maybe.
Oh, yeah. But George could have just said, 2, 5, 7,
Yeah.
whatever the numbers are. I can't think of it. But, like, that's his PIN code. You think he could just say the numbers. But he has to incriminate himself.
Right.
And letting it know that he killed it,
Perhaps
her mother, his mother.
Bosco was this man's name.
Now, just imagine, Johnny, that all the let's say all the events that led up to
dead
somebody
lover
being
named
trapped in
Bosco.
an ATM machine are legit, and so that's the situation you found.
Well, there's
find
also
yourself
a
in.
raging fire about to burn down the block.
Would you really weigh the two options of do I tell people that I made my code Bosco, or should
But also,
I save
why is
someone's
he?
life?
Why is he the only other person there with an ATM?
Why isn't Peterman have an ATM code everywhere if he runs a
what's
magazine?
Great. That's what's great about that episode is that someone runs in and goes, "There's a fire! Everyone out of the building!" And everyone runs out, and he just like goes, Like, he knows it's coming. He knows the universe is about to punish him for calling this old lady.
Yeah, whatever.
And
could
Peterman
go
has to
wrong.
come back and be like, George, come on. Like let's do this. And he's like, all
Of course,
right.
you're right there, George. I'm pointing to you. Give us your code. The damn code,
Actually,
George.
you're-
There's no
that's
time,
great.
man.
When he first runs out of the funeral home, and George just keeps sitting there, and
He
Peterman
just sits
comes
there.
back and just goes,
He's like, I don't want to deal with
George!
Also,
Like they're lifelong
earlier in
friends.
that episode, Jerry says to George, when he's asking him for the code, he says, "What if my life depends on it?" And George says, "If your life depends on it, if you find yourself in some sort of situation where your life depends on it, I'll give you my code."
Yeah.
Like, what possible situation? Like,
He'll
he
give
calls
him
out the
the code.
logic.
How
of
could
it.
an ATM code save your life?
Save your life,
Yeah.
and then he's put in that situation where it's like,
Because he made a
fuck.
decree.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Seinfeld universe will find a way to
George!
break the logic of that, right?
George, you're obviously lying. Anyone
You're
can see that.
obviously lying.
love
How is he
that.
obviously
Peterman might-
lying? He just said it. Like,
Peterman
no, but
might
he's
have some of
always
the best lines.
things are destined to be fucked up for George.
Yeah.
And he'll agree with that.
Yeah, and he'll agree with that. And because of that,
Do you
he's
know
like
why? Do you know why?
narcissistic in
But do
that
you know why,
negative
though?
way.
Do you know why that's the case? Because he never could compete with Lloyd Braun.
I love when Costanza says that. He speaks normally, and then on the words Lloyd Braun, it
becomes
changes.
so
It almost
deep.
sounds like a bass drum hit from
It's amazing.
percussion. It's like,
He-
you never could compete with Lloyd Braun. Like, there's this percussive.
Only Jerry Stiller could do.
Oh my
Yeah,
God.
only Jerry Stiller could accomplish that.
I know we asked who our favorite characters were in the first half, but I still think of all the characters, or at least the secondary characters, yeah, Frank Costanza, definitely my favorite. Because
So-
I think his character works so well, and Jerry Stiller's just so funny.
So-
Yeah,
Let's do
worth
a-
saying. Oh,
Let's do like a favorite character, obviously outside of the four, that we'll do two. We'll do like one that's more than like 5 episodes, and then one that's like less than 3 episodes.
less
Like-
than 3, so something kind of
Or it could
rare.
be like a single
Yeah.
episode
I mean,
character.
Yeah.
we don't have the exact numbers on this stuff, obviously, but
I got him.
oh, you got him.
He's got him in
If
his
you-
in
if
his
you
brain
need-
vault.
Is
Yeah.
Jamie
No,
here?
I wrote some of them down.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Oh my
really?
God, that's awesome.
Yeah. Anyone need a beer while I grab those?
Yeah.
Yeah, why not?
All right,
Yeah, that sounds awesome.
Johnny, what's your favorite, not rare side character, but somewhat common side character?
It might be Peterman. Like, remember when
Yeah.
he gives a graphic eulogy of his sexual relationship with Susie, a made-up character
He-
that
at
he
the
couldn't
eulogy,
have
he's
possibly
like, I'm the
have had
boss,
sex
and
with?
I had sex with
We
the
worked
employee.
late that one night, just the two of us. About
Yeah.
how, yeah.
When we gave in to some temptation, and it was pretty good. And Jerry,
good. Yeah, that was
Jerry
such a-
just looks at
such a
Elaine, and Elaine's like,
Well,
"No, I didn't have sex with
Yeah, first
Peterman."
of all, that's going to make you recanter on all of your...
Yeah, Eric, by the way, just proved that he did more research than we've ever done for Thunk Tank Podcast ever.
Awesome.
Johnny, let me show this to the camera. I mean, you
What
can't
do you-
see it,
you
but
print
it's
out some,
a list of
quotes?
the side characters with the number of times they've appeared in episodes.
That's amazing.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, I would like to specify that Wikipedia did all of that work.
Oh.
I got
No, no,
drunk
no.
and
I-
watched
I-
Seinfeld.
Okay.
I mean, that's still research.
That's the true Thunk style of research.
Yeah, yeah.
Well
Sick.
done, sir.
I was going to say, like, our Thunk search is more...
In fact, I should have just screenshotted Wiki.
yeah,
you know, but-
instead of writing it down, but
I-
you don't
I
have a
thought
printer.
Well, no, I could have just looked at my phone, which is right here.
Oh, phone.
Yeah, it's not like it was going to be busy during the podcast.
No, I like this. This looks like actual research.
Right, yeah, it
what am
felt
I
like
supposed to
research.
do with this?
Read it.
Oh, so I think we're trying to determine what our favorite character in more
So what? How many?
than 5 and less than 3. So 2 answers of
Oh, I get it.
a character that appears in more than 5. Somebody like a
So-
Newman who is
Definitely
way up
more
there.
than 5. Yeah,
No, way up there. Like probably the second.
but he's probably in at least like
He's
one.
in 40 something.
Yeah, he's probably
right?
in at
So,
least.
Johnny, there's
two
11
episodes this
characters that appear in more than six or more episodes.
season. Wow.
That's what I wrote. Yeah, I figured the ones that are less than that we can.
So,
just
which
kinda
of those would you guess
spitball.
is your favorite, Peterman?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah,
One more
he's
time.
So good.
There are 11 characters, side characters that appear in 6 or more episodes. And Peterman is one of them.
Where is he on the list, though?
He appears in 22 episodes.
Wow. That's legit.
Yeah, that's a lot.
That's a full
like
season of Peterman.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
I love when you find out when Peterman, because they develop his character over time. He's just the cheesy boss, but then you find out that he is also like an ex-heroin.
Yeah, he
addict.
loses his mind.
But he's
And then
also
he
when
loses
they
his mind.
do the biography,
He goes
and
to my- he
to
goes
kill me.
Myanmar.
and Elaine's
Most
trying to
likely
like
no, it's Burma.
get details of his life. He's just like sitting on the couch, like, oh, there's nothing on TV again. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
No.
When he,
Yeah.
When Elaine's gonna get his stories, that's why he
That's why
buys Kramer's.
he buys Kramer's stories. Yeah.
Oh,
'Cause
yeah,
he's
yeah,
actually
yeah.
not that
Maybe
interesting.
there's coupons in here, and like
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
like, I got to do something.
Oh, because he's
That's right,
actually
Elaine.
boring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you dig into it, well, obviously that's the whole Peterman character is that he's a performer, right? His acting is so clearly overacting, right?
Yeah.
Like George, you're clearly lying. Like it's all overacting, and so the idea is like Jerry,
It's acting
Elaine,
without
George,
acting.
Kramer, they're trying to be like people, but just failing at it.
Yeah.
But Peterman is just performing to be this guy, and we all know it. It's almost like a character in a simulation or something. It's like a video
tested
game. He's a
positive for
Peterman
opium.
character. He does what Peterman would do. He says, "George, you're clearly lying." Like that's not what a human says. They would be like,
So he goes.
Why-
and he sits
why are
on
you-
the couch and
why-
he watches TV?
"Yeah." And anyways, I
Here's a
agree. I
trivia
highly
question.
agree
What
with
does-
Peterman. He's a
when
great
she-
genius character.
When Elaine fails her drug, I had to look it up because I forgot. And it's hilarious. When Elaine fails her drug test from eating too many poppy seed bagels, fails her
yum
opium,
yum.
and
That's all happened to us, right?
Peterman finds out, and he goes, it's in your urine, and he goes, that's right, Elaine, and then he calls it 3 different things. What is it?
Yam yam.
Yep, yeah, that's one of them. Yeah, this is a good one. This is
Yeah,
a good
that is
trivia. I had
good.
to look it up.
You've tested positive for opium. That's
For
right.
opium.
Yam yam.
Yeah, he goes, that's right, Elaine. White Lotus, yam yam. Shanghai Sally.
Shanghai Sally. That's it.
That's
Shanghai
the one, yeah.
Sally.
Oh,
And the way
by
he says
way,
it, it's like
you're
that-
fired.
you
Not like, oh, I'll help you through this addiction, but yeah.
no, you could tell he's bought it as Shanghai Sally at some point.
Right.
Like, you know
That's
what
why
I
he
mean?
knows that. Yeah.
Yeah, why else would you know that slang term? You're some executive.
He was
New
in a
York.
country where that's what you said to buy that drug.
Yeah, yeah. So I think Peterman is one of the more like side characters that's funny, interesting, like has depth, all that stuff. So
Yeah,
I would have
fair
to go
enough.
Peterman.
Hey, Kenna.
What's
Hi,
up, Kenna?
guys.
We can pretend that you're here.
Hello, everyone.
Joe, what's your favorite side character in 6 or more?
I mean,
Because I say that because there are only 2 characters that were in less than 6 episodes.
Well,
Just
no,
like
that's
Bob-
not
I
true.
probably
Oh.
Those-
I am reading this data wrong.
yeah, you're totally
Just on
reading
that
it wrong.
list.
No, so I don't.
I mean-
yeah, there's way more characters.
Okay,
You mean-
That's just the list of people that are 5 episodes, or I think maybe 4. What does it say?
well, the bottom one says 2 episodes.
How many
No,
episodes? was
two to
Babu
5
in?
probably, or and then
That's
6
two.
to whatever.
Okay, so 6 and up is from that.
Yeah, yeah.
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 But there's only 2 people. This
I
might not
list-
be a complete
No, I
list.
listed 2 of my favorites, basically because they appear in their 1 episode plus the finale.
Oh, okay.
Oh, interesting.
Oh, I understand.
Is Babu one of them? Because he
Correct.
I was going to
so
pick him.
he
Yeah,
was
I
one
was
of
gonna
my
pick him as my
favorites, and he's
favorite, but-
technically 2 because of the finale.
Okay,
yeah,
fair
that
enough.
checks. Oh, I see. Okay, yeah, because a lot of them pop
they
back.
So the-
in.
Very bad
the
man.
Finger.
The Babu,
doing the-
I don't find
Babu
him
finger.
particularly
Babu!
like such an amazing character. Like nowhere near the value of Peterman. But what it is, it's like it's this person that, like, it's the same emotion I get. Like when I went to Walmart recently, and like whenever I go to Walmart, I see like really fat people, and it gets me so depressed. And sometimes when you see a fat person, you're like, dude, you need a life coach, you know? I feel like Jerry saw Babu and his like pathetic restaurant. He's like, this guy just needs a little encouragement, right? And so he went up and tried to like make Babu's restaurant successful. And
Like, share, subscribe.
exactly. And
Thank you, Eric.
but Jerry wasn't doing it for Babu. It turned out Jerry
No.
was doing it for himself, right? He was saying that
I am a
to,
good
to
guy.
reinforce
I am
that,
a good person.
I am a good person.
And the whole episode, you hear Jerry's internal dialogue
So, but
saying,
that's why I
I'm a
didn't-
good person. My mom was right. And then at the end, when Babu says, very bad man, Jerry goes, could it be? Could I be a bad
Yeah.
man? Am I a bad person?
What does he say?
Could
to
my
that?
mother have been
No,
wrong?
no chance.
No.
no chance.
But that's why I made them different values, right? That's
Okay.
why I made it 3 and 5. Because
I see.
Babu, of course, is not a Peterman level.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
Peterman's in 22 episodes. So,
right. He developed a lot.
yeah.
So in less than I'm already forgetting. Less than 3 episodes or less than 5, whatever. The point is they're a minor character.
Right.
I have one. He's actually in a single episode plus the finale. That to me it's a single shot too. That's a big clue. There's no break in between his scene, but he does have a second scene. But it's clearly, for me, my favorite side character.
Huh.
Appears in one episode during the series.
Is it the
and
soup
then
Nazi?
Nope.
Not Bookman?
Bookman.
Oh, Bookman.
Oh,
Yeah.
Bookman, yes.
No, he's in
Of course
more than
it's
one scene.
Bookman.
More than
Is
yeah.
that funny
well,
to
two
you?
scenes.
Well, he
I
had-
meant it's my favorite
Well,
uncut.
Yeah,
his
he has
rant.
that one rant that's
Right,
like
which is
pretty
just-
epic.
It's
yeah.
almost like Shakespearean level,
They didn't
like
touch it.
It's really
acting.
good.
They were
Yeah.
like, save that before we lose it.
They probably like saw him like start it, and they were like, stop, save it. Like we're just gonna say go, and you're gonna do that, and then you'll go home and you'll
Right.
get the. How much do you think
he also
that
comes-
kind of actor gets for that kind of gig?
Not a lot.
I bet $10,000 for just that one scene.
Maybe I don't know. Maybe
I don't know,
maybe
yeah.
not in the 90s.
Depending on what season we were in, probably 4.
But he shows up in Curb too as an actor.
oh yeah, he's a
Yeah.
doctor.
He
Yeah.
drools on Larry. Yeah,
Yeah.
oh, you
He's
fucking
Larry's
drooled on
doctor,
my
yeah.
head.
yeah.
Yeah.
Can I mention one character because I would say Frank is my favorite character, who's in 6 or more episodes, and then probably Peterman's a close second. But my third would probably be somebody who you never actually quite see, which is George Steinbrenner.
Yeah, you never see his face; you just hear his voice,
And it's just so funny how like they couldn't figure out how to do that, so that they decided let's just have a dummy guy, like a Franken person, waving his arms, and we'll just have Larry do the voice.
But this is the classic
Steinbrenner,
Seinfeld
sorry.
character
Steinbrenner,
because
yeah.
it's not even pretending to be a real boss. It's just this like cartoon character with wavy arms is saying unreasonable things.
But you know what's funny about that too, within the context of that character, is that that's actually what George Steinbrenner was known as. Like as owner,
As that kind of character?
as owner of the
Hopefully
all that.
not exactly.
Well, no, he was to that extreme where he would get in fights with people and he would fire people over and over again and rehire them, and he was known as this insane, eccentric,
Actually, yeah. And
li-
which
like,
is hilarious. That
very
he loved
Trumpian.
George.
Yeah, well, he loved whoever. Like there was no system to the madness of how he ran his business, which is eventually why they pushed him out of running the Yankees, because it was just so inconsistent and such madness.
How many episodes do you think Steinbrenner was in?
I would say probably, I don't know, a dozen,
Pretty close, 16.
16.
Who?
Yeah,
Steinbrenner.
Yeah,
that was a pretty good run.
So
All right.
obviously, from me posing the question, I've thought about it for a couple days. I have
You slept on it.
slept on it.
Yeah.
I have my answer to both, but it might influence yours. So you gave me
looking at this list, I mean,
buy them, throw them in the cabinet. They last.
Can I see the
forever.
list?
yeah.
the list helps with episode numbers.
Well, I still think Frank is my
Here's the
favorite.
thing, like every time I see this list, I go, yes, definitely this one. And then I see the next one, I'm like, ooh, but actually that one. You know, like
You
each
couldn't
one.
smooth out a silk sheet with a hot date if you had a.
Exactly.
I lost
I
my
lost
train
my
of
train of
thought.
thought.
So like Uncle Leo, amazing,
Yeah.
right? But at the same time, he's just Uncle Leo. Like, how many episodes do you think Uncle Leo is in?
Hello.
Jerry, hello.
You still
He's
say
doing
hello.
pull-ups. When he's doing pull-ups at Jerry's fantasy after he gets
In
sent to
prison.
jail, and he's got
Hello.
hello Jerry.
I'm
on
an
his
old man.
knuckles.
I'm confused.
Uncle Leo, he's probably in, I would say like 10 episodes.
Close again, 15.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was more than 6.
David Putty.
Oh yeah, I forgot about Putty.
I did.
David Putty is almost like one of these, like, he's similar to this Steinbrenner character. He's just like
See, Putty's one of my favorites.
you're just like
I'm gonna
cookie
come out
cutter,
and say,
yeah.
like, I'm just Putty. Yeah, I'm Putty.
Yeah.
I'm just Putty.
He's a tackle dummy.
I've met
like,
men
you know,
like
in
that.
football, those tackle dummies.
I think that's why
he's
it's
just one of
hilarious.
those.
Yeah.
He's like, he's like pretty realistic actually.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I've
totally.
met a lot of people like
He's
that.
like the average dude in a lot of circles.
Where it's just like I'm just totally unemotional. That's how I
So you're
figured
just
out
gonna
how to get through life.
You're just gonna sit
and
there
that's
and
what I do.
stare at the back of the seat. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's right.
On the whole
That's
plane
one
ride
of my-
home.
Yep.
First of all, they
Yeah, that's
all
right.
say yeah, that's right because of him.
Yep.
Yeah, that's right.
That becomes like a trending thing.
Putty's pretty
but when
good.
he's sitting on the couch
High
and
five.
Kramer calls,
He's just staring into nothing.
he's staring into space, and then Kramer explains that well, first of all, he starts the call like this. He goes, "Hey, is David Putty there?" This is Putty.
This is Putty.
Well, this is Kramer. He goes, "Yeah, I know."
Yeah, I know. It's such a weird way to have a conversation.
like-
That's not normal.
I was I'm installing a garbage disposal in my shower. He goes, it's a pretty big job.
Is it? Is that a big job? It's like a medium job.
I don't know.
No, that is a big
The,
job.
auxiliary line from the main. He goes. Kramer says like, no, it's his main line. He goes, yeah, it's a misprint. What do you got, a Clarkman?
Kramer just goes, yeah.
Yeah. And it's just like, why would David Putty
Know about
mechanic,
yeah, car mechanic.
which is important, know about a garbage disposal made by Clarkman, and there's some misprint in the user guide, like.
Because he's just staring into space.
And the
Kramer
misprint
calls
is
him.
main line from auxiliary line. Those are opposite lines. If those two lines even exist in a shower, those are opposite.
Yeah, who
Main and
knows?
auxiliary are opposite. So you're fucking up people's showers.
Universe, though, David Putty knows anything about putting anything because he's a mechanic.
Yeah.
He's a mechanic.
But no, only if it works for the
He's a
story.
grease monkey.
It's the only
We don't really like that term.
coincidence.
Hey, what'd I tell you about that?
Coco. Yeah, Coco.
Monkeys.
You guys didn't decide anything, did you? No, we were just talking. We both liked the same monkey.
No, we both just like the same monkey. Yeah, how just specifically he says that.
That's
Johnny, this
That
is
was
gonna
season 8 or 9, yeah.
This is a really tough one, but see if you can place this quote. Tell him to eat a plum. Plum.
Me and Tommy say that to each other all the time. Like when we're like, "Oh, see you later." As soon as the door's closing, we just yell out, "Plum!"
Shout out to Nick Boyce if you're listening.
Yeah. That's Morty. Helen is
Yeah,
on the
yeah.
phone.
Yeah.
Helen is Jerry's mother, right? Obviously, and she's on the phone with Jerry, and he mentions that he was feeling a little sick, and the father has nothing better to do with his day than just hover over his wife and just listen to the phone call, and he kind of gets the sense, Jerry must be sick, and he needs to yell in his part. Which the reverse happens a lot too, where like Jerry's father's on the phone and the mom's yelling from the background. But this happened to be Jerry's father yelling from the background saying, "Tell him to eat a plum." Like, yeah, you need to tell your 40-year-old son to eat a plum. That's what's going to make or break his day, you know?
And then as he's hanging up, you just hear him in the background go, "Plum!" They're so but they're like everybody's insane parents. Like between Jerry's parents and George's parents, you have the full spectrum of everybody's insane
they're
parents.
two ends of a spectrum, right?
They cover the whole spectrum, except nobody has those parents. They just have the
Well, they have aspects.
They have the in-betweens, which are real people.
Like every once in a while they do something, I'm like, oh, that's so like what parents do, yeah.
Yeah.
Like you're in a situation where parts of you want to say what George would say.
Yep.
Or
Yeah.
think what Jerry would think.
Well, that's what Larry says about Curb Your Enthusiasm, is that obviously I would never actually do this or act upon this like I do in the show, but it's what I oftentimes want to say or want to do,
And that's
or what my impulse is.
Each of these characters.
Yeah, sure.
But also,
well, it's relatable in that,
also
in that
on a
sense,
deeper
yeah.
level, like, so Seinfeld characters or Curb characters, they're popping out at one layer of truth. They're saying something very truthful in one layer. But if you were to zoom out and be like, what's the point of life? The things Seinfeld characters care about are not things you should care about. And Larry and Curb, right?
Yeah.
Like they're being hyper true on one level, but not on multiple other levels, which some of those would be stop focusing on your short-term goals and think of the long-term trajectory of your life, right? Where are you heading? What do you want to do with your life? Like these long-term questions, Seinfeld characters could care less about that, right? They're thinking about like the short-term petty ways that people think they could take advantage of them. Like when George fakes this arm injury, George has a fake sense of honor. Like George is very honorable, but for the wrong things. He says to Jerry, like, so first off, he fakes this arm injury, right? And it all starts because he's just trying to poke at somebody in front of Lloyd Braun, right? Lloyd Braun. And so Lloyd says, of course, because this is Seinfeld, Lloyd won't just stand there and be like, oh, nice to meet you. Lloyd says, what's wrong with your arm, George? Like a psychopath, you know?
Which he is.
And then George, instead of
he
also
later
being
gets sent
normal,
away, yeah.
being like, oh, I was just like
Serenity now,
twitching it.
insanity.
George says, oh, I have this problem in my arm. It's a medical condition. And Lloyd Braun, as a Seinfeld universe character would do, gets genuinely concerned and says, my God, that sounds awful. I'll get you in touch with the mayor's doctor. We'll solve this. It's no problem at all. You know?
But he's also...
There's literally nothing you can say that will stop me from
he's also
going
already
forward with this.
suspicious because he says to George, like, as he hands him the card, and I'm very curious to hear about the results.
Yeah. And now, later on in the episode, George makes it clear that he knows that Lloyd Braun knows that he's faking it. but he wants to go to the grave with the whole thing because he thinks that it's better to die with honor.
I think your phone died.
Either my phone died or Johnny really won the hang-up game.
Didn't it say low battery before?
Yeah.
It said 20% like a while ago. But whose phone was low battery?
Mine, the one that's Skyping.
Oh, so your phone's fine. Your phone's not the problem.
I mean, my phone's still on.
Do you realize that we haven't done so far?
What?
Which is pretty stupid. We haven't said like what our favorite episode is.
Oh, fair point.
Like that's that probably could have been like a jumping off point even. But I think your phone's done.
Favorite season is fair.
Your favorite episode.
Favorite season is fair as a start.
Episode equal favorite season or no?
That's a good question.
That'd be a,
No, because I have different answers for that. Yeah. Yeah, no, I have different answers. I mean, those are both good questions, I think.
I'm not positive what season my favorite episode.
I mean, so I'll start with my favorite episode because my favorite episode, and there's so many that are right up there where on any given day I might say, this is my favorite episode. This is my favorite episode for this reason. The one that I just like to watch, I like to, if I'm just hanging out, sit down and watch. And maybe because it's a slightly different Seinfeld episode, is the subway. Because it's so much different. None of it takes place in Jerry's apartment. It all takes place, the whole thing takes place on the subway.
Honestly, it makes me feel claustrophobic. That's why I hate it.
Oh, I love that episode.
Because I really feel like Elaine's like, because I've been on too many subways.
But that's what I mean, you get it.
That feel claustrophobic.
But it's all what they're dealing with. You know what I mean? Like, it's all what they're dealing with individually. Like, George almost has this job, and he botches it by thinking that he's going to bang this hot chick off the subway.
He thinks he's finally got, like, he can finally break the universe's curse.
And it starts with...
And it gets even worse.
It gets even worse because... And Jerry warns him, don't whistle on the elevator, Biff.
That's like the Shakespearean part, too.
Oh, very much, yeah.
Every time he thinks it can't get worse, it does.
It gets way worse. He walks into the coffee shop at the end of the episode in a hotel bedsheet toga with no keys or wallet because he got robbed. And it's just kind of a...
You have the key to my apartment.
Yeah, so I like that episode because it kind of works as I feel like it's very typical of all of their experiences. And Kramer, he wins. He's supposed to go to court. He's supposed to be responsible, but he gets a tip on the subway of like a horse race that's a lock.
His father was a mutter. His mother was a mutter.
Yeah, and he winds up winning like 18. Yeah, and he winds up winning like 18 grand.
And almost getting mugged.
And that's enough to survive for another few months in Kramerland.
That's Kramerland.
You know?
So, like, that's a perfect...
Maybe he got, like, some crazy rent-controlled apartment where, like, in Kramerland, like, he could just survive forever.
But again, like that really works to demonstrate his sort of just Kramer abilities, right?
Yeah.
Whereas you see George's shortcomings, whereas you see Jerry sort of just, like, evening out, like, oh, yeah, I didn't make it to the car place to get my car, but... This nudist on the subway I met, he put it away at Nathan's. We had a great time at Coney Island, you know?
Yeah, what's he on the subway for? To go to Coney Island, right?
No, he's going to pick up his car because they found his car that was stolen. And he says, oh, not only was it, you know, in perfect shape, but the wheels were aligned and whatever. But he's like,
I'm
also
going
to...
the psychopath.
But the lot's down by Coney Island, so he's like, I'm also going to go to Coney Island.
Because his life is so easy that, like, he works Saturday and Sunday or Friday and Saturday.
He figures, whatever, I'll go tomorrow. I got to go to Coney Island with a nudist.
Monday through Friday. Like,
the interaction with that guy on the subway is great.
It's great.
I actually need to rewatch that. That's one. Like,
it's a great episode.
There are shadowy, shadowy, like, you know, moments in Seinfeld that I don't remember. But, so just an update on Johnny. He had to go. It's Johnny's anniversary today.
Oh, fair enough.
Happy anniversary, Johnny! Woo!
Yeah. Well, anniversaries are merely symbolic of how another year has gone by and how little we've grown. No matter how desperate we are, that someday a better self will emerge with each flicker of the candle on the cake. We know that it's not to be. That for the rest of our sad, wretched, pathetic lives, this is who we are to the bitter end. Inevitably, irrevocably. Happy anniversary? There's no such thing.
3 years is a long time to be married. Those are all Seinfeld quotes, if that makes you feel any better. Are we still recording?
Yeah, I think so.
Nice. So what's your favorite episode? I think go back and rewatch the Subway episode, because I think thinking about it in terms of what we're talking about with character essence, you might have a different opinion. But what... Yeah, what do you think's your favorite? I mean, there's a bunch of others. Like, I could have said marine biologist, just as
honestly,
easily,
it just for me it depends on like whenever I get asked the question, what is your favorite whatever?
Yeah.
It's like, well, it depends on who you're asking, because like,
it's totally subjective.
like I have different sort of like angles to the personality that are coming out at different times. So like, same in music. What's your favorite composer? Joe, who's your favorite writer? It's like, well,
Kurt Vonnegut.
It depends.
No, Kurt Vonnegut. He's my favorite author. I don't think he's the best author, but he's my favorite.
Well, I mean, I have that. I have the answer to such a question too with music, but I guess what I'm trying to say is like, I don't know. My guess, I could answer the question honestly by saying, if you ask me, what is the episode that first enters my mind when I think of my favorite, and the first one that entered my mind
He's meditating, ladies.
Was when George is taking the IQ test and he's trying to explain his way out of all the chaos that has ensued. And so he basically gave an IQ test to Elaine out a window.
Oh, yeah, right.
And then
she spills the coffee
she
on
spills coffee on it, right? and he's being asked about this. And
I left out the window.
So first off, he's dating a girl, and in her line of work, she was doing something with IQ tests, so she wanted him to take an IQ test. Fair enough. Nothing wrong there necessarily. And he says, I'm scared to take it because I feel like I'm dumb, right? Look, George has an inferiority complex. Like, what a shock, right? And so Elaine says, well, I'm actually really smart. Like, I'll take it for you. And or somebody else suggests it, whatever actually happens. And so that becomes the new plan, right? And
were you playing video games?
What's that sound? Yeah. I think it's just electronics passing through things. It could be a cell phone. Yeah. Yeah, it could be the phone. And so...
And we're back live in studio. That's just in. Luke is explaining something. Stay tuned for Folger's new coffee now.
Joe, I've been having enough beer today that as soon as you say more than 5 words,
slip them.
There's no chance I'm going to remember what I was just saying. You know this more than anyone.
I know this more than anyone.
George is trying to work his way out of passing the IQ test out the window.
Yes. Okay. So Elaine says, like, I can do it for you, whatever, right? Yeah. Now, the thing about Seinfeld is this is the prequel to the events of the episode, right? Like story A, story B, and then all the development and the resolution, right? In like the plot of a sitcom, let's say.
Julius.
Dude, we're cracking a lot of great beer.
Yeah, we're crushing.
Check out our Instagram and check out our Twitter, and we'll post like a graveyard picture with all the empty beers.
Yeah, we'll get a good lineup.
And of course, the first beer was a Jerk Store called. So anyways, George has Elaine take this IQ test, and it gets fucked, obviously, because of the other chaos in Seinfeld world, including Kramer and Jerry. Why would Elaine go to Babu's Cafe?
Yeah, that's kind of on her.
Why wouldn't she go to Jerry's apartment? His apartment
because it's being fumigated.
But Jerry's apartment was empty.
Is that right?
Was it? No, that's a different...
That's a different... No,
that's when she has
the manuscript.
Because later on, for the second...
I'll tell you why, because in
Billy
the Seinfeld
Muffin was
universe,
a simple...
Because there's a pre-plan in Seinfeld universe, which is how can we make the story work and fuck with people.
Billy Mumphrey.
Billy Mumphrey.
So it wasn't a question. We're just bouncing around. Yes.
I love how she gets like 6 lines from Kramer's description.
That's another Kramer being the wise person, which doesn't make any sense. Kramer has no qualifications to be the wise character.
We're fucking.
Yet there
we're
he is.
Pinballing it hard here.
Yeah. Well, this is what people pay for.
Keep up. Try to keep up. If not,
no, we're good. We're trying to do a part 2, so we have 5 more minutes. We'll hit an hour.
Yeah, we'll be good to go.
I have to pee at some point.
Do you?
So, anyways,
it needs it bad, Mr. Kramer.
That's so... You have to be at a psychotic level of Seinfeld to know what you just said. Which we all do.
And if there's anyone listening, which there isn't...
We love you.
Thanks.
Yeah. No, it's only an hour in. I think, according to the iTunes stats, we lose people at an hour and a half.
Do we
They
really?
say, like, really? They think they're going to keep talking, and they just kind of, like, tune out. Because you can see when people turn off podcast
yeah,
on like
that's fair.
not like per obviously person,
Yeah.
but like you just look at the
Yeah,
aggregated data.
If I was just a listener right now would be the point.
Mr.
I start
Kramer,
to
the
fade.
road.
You'd be like, well, I'm almost at work, and these guys sound like idiots.
Right.
So, Joe, redeem
fair
them.
enough.
Oh, you were asking me my favorite episode? What's your favorite episode?
We just went through this. I spent like 5 minutes
Yeah,
explaining.
he explained
We
his,
should
which
explain
was
your
the subway.
Your favorite
Oh,
episode.
Let me
Then
go.
you're the one that didn't.
Oh, also, shout out to the limo. I also love that episode.
Wow, watch that the other day. That's
Can I-
O'Brien and
O'Brien,
Yeah,
great.
that's great.
Also, doesn't take place in Jerry's apartment. I don't know
At
why
all,
I like
yeah.
those episodes.
Can I
but
edit my episode? I actually want to
Yeah.
choose the Hamptons.
No.
Hampton's great episode.
Yeah.
Love that episode.
There are no
yeah.
rules.
Okay.
What are the rules?
What are
So-
the rules?
What are the rules?
My favorite episode isn't a great episode, but based on a couple of the scenes, which is my favorite Seinfeld scene of all time,
Ooh.
I had to go with this. It's called the Cheever letters.
Oh yeah,
So it's when
John Cheever
it's when Susan finds out that her father's gay.
banging John Cheever.
But
Whoever John Cheever is.
yeah, I mean,
Doesn't matter.
War buddy, whatever.
No, he's an author.
He's an author. That's right.
Yeah, he's
Um,
a, he's a short
basically,
story writer.
when they're having dinner with the Costanzas.
Wait, is that the one with?
Oh no, I'm sorry. George has to tell them that the cabin is burned.
That's when the Costanzas are.
Wait,
Yeah.
no, that's
Oh, no,
not,
no.
that's not the Marble Rye where he's like, there's
No,
a hen,
no.
a chicken, and a rooster.
No, that's
No,
a
that's
Someone's-
the
that's a great
Costanza
scene too.
Yeah.
parents and,
So this
and
is-
Susan
this
parents.
is Susan,
You're talking
this
just
is
George
and the parents.
Yeah.
yeah, having dinner,
And they
yeah.
have to tell him that the
Right.
cabin's burned.
right.
And
It burned.
and she, you find out Susan's mom's just a drunk. Susan's dad is like just this
Did you
author.
get Julius already?
Yeah, just fresh top off.
Yeah. A beer catch up. We've had.
Go ahead, Luke.
I don't know. I don't know what beer we've had. Check the pictures.
I don't know. We'll do it live.
But when
This is more like a drunk tank, but it's gonna be a normal episode. Go
oh
on.
God.
sure.
Go on.
When
Yeah.
George ends up going to Susan's, and that's when they find out. They find these letters that indicate, about her dad.
Him banging a guy.
George meeting like her.
Let's just say it because they never said those things in Seinfeld universe.
Well,
they pretended all the sex was happening, like through code word, but like
John, you and John Cheever, Dad?
No,
Yeah,
doesn't the
yes.
letter say
yes.
say your orgasm?
He
has-
loved me in ways
The-
that you would never know.
Doesn't he say?
What does that mean?
No, doesn't he? No, because that's right after
Blowjobs?
he
What
said.
does that mean?
No, that's right after she reads the letter and it says your orgasm
Yeah.
has left me a
Yeah,
cripple.
Yeah.
like,
Give me those.
yeah.
Like artistically.
So when
like, as a
George
way
walks-
of
I don't know.
phrase, or-
When George
But
walks
he
in, though,
loves him in ways that she could never know, which apparently is connected.
and then also they just forget about that because they stay together for the rest of the series.
including
Well-
the whole foundation thing where George is getting screwed over by
Right.
the fact that his ex-fiance's parents really think he's genuine about this concept of like
Because
her
of a
memory
Star
should live
Trek
on.
line.
and it's all because of a Star Trek line that Jerry said because Jerry's just
no, they don't
playing
think
with
he's.
the world.
They don't
he's
think
bored.
he's genuine. They call him out when he takes them to his imaginary
Eventually
house
in
out
the
in the
Hamptons.
Hamptons, and they just wind up on the beach. And he's like,
yeah.
there is no house. I made it all up. And he's like, and they're like, yeah, we know. And he's like, then why did you make me come out here? And I was like, we don't like you, George. Yeah, we always blamed you for Susan's
Trivia.
death.
That's
George's
actually,
horse-
I
That's
forgot
dark.
about that.
That's
George's
dark too.
That's data that I just haven't logged
That's
in.
dark,
Damn,
yeah.
I haven't seen that
George's
episode
horses
in, a while.
in the Hamptons.
Yeah.
George's horses, made up horses in the Hamptons.
what about them?
Names?
They have names.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
shit.
Now I'm positive on one of them. And
That's
I think
good.
I know
Fuck
the other.
that. That's what I say to that. Fuck that.
That's gold,
This is
baby.
why I hate when like
It's
a
gold,
bar
Jerry.
when a bar.
That's why I wish John was still on.
What, I know.
He'd be like typing it in.
He might get it, but he
might get one of them. I think it's Snoopy and Prickly Pete. I'm
that's-
positive about Prickly, Pete.
Yeah, I was gonna say I know Prickly
And
Pete.
I think the other one's Snoopy. But he literally drives to the Hamptons instead of saying, "You got me."
Which is like a 3-hour drive from Manhattan.
Really far.
Which I understand on one level. I guess you don't even need that anymore if you don't want a headphone. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
you're struggling with it, but I'm like,
Oh yeah, why do
No,
you have
I was
headphones?
fixing this. Why don't you go fuck yourself, man?
That's what I like to know about it.
Some kind of a
okay,
joke?
Joe,
It's just like slurring
Das
random
what-
out of context quotes.
This- you
I
gotta-
would say now, but I
Alright.
realize it's been for the last 2
You got to
episodes.
transition this into a drunk tank.
We
Well-
could just transition into a drunk tank. I mean, we're pretty much
just
there.
hit 1
essentially
hour.
what it is, yeah.
Okay,
Like, share, subscribe.
I did want to say one.
If you're
one-
still listening now, God bless you.
yeah, I did want to say one
God
thing though. Like,
bless you.
it's worth noting that Seinfeld has a bookend the way it closes, opens and closes. Right, it's a bookend. It opens with a conversation about the placement
Same.
of a button.
Same
And
conversation.
it closes with that. And there's a shallow way to see that, which is like, oh, haha, I see what you did, right? But then on a deeper level, what the comment is that it doesn't matter whether they're just in their normal lives and just
It's
chatting,
Snoopy and Prickly Pete, you're right.
or whether
Thank
they're in prison
Oh my
because of how awful. Like,
Well, that's the whole
the
premise.
Seinfeld
It's a
story
culmination
premise
of
found
how
a way
awful
to
they
show
are.
that
Yeah.
they're not in prison because they got a speeding ticket.
Right.
They're not in prison because of whatever. They're in prison
Well, they're not-
because
they're not in prison
there's a
because-
law that was against awful people, which means they had to go to prison because they
Was
watched
to
somebody
trap
get mugged
awful
without
people, yeah.
helping at all, and they laughed and they
But
called
it was
the guy
about
fat.
the whole series.
But it was really
Well, it
about the whole
became about
series
the whole
because
series,
all the
yeah.
characters come back at the end and they all remind everyone like how awful they are. So they're in prison because of how awful they are, and they still have this mindless conversation about the button. And it's like the bookend of
It's
the
like
whole series.
that's why they should be in jail.
Also,
in a way, it's like, yeah, you should not be in society
So-
because
also fun,
you're all
fun to note just about the
broken.
finale is for fans who might not know, Larry David came back to write that
Yeah,
finale.
for that
episode.
finale.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
He came back.
I did not know that.
He left after season 7, I believe, but he came back to help write the finale episode. And that's why he was so upset that it got such a backlash, because he thought it was really good. And in retrospect, I think it's really good. And I think a lot of real
Yeah.
fans think it's
grown
good.
on me every year.
It's grown on me, too. And it got a lot of flack at the time.
I need to watch it again.
But when you think about it, like you're saying, in terms of book ending,
Yeah.
it works really well. It's pretty genius in
Do you,
that
guys,
sense.
do you
yeah.
guys remember the judge's name in?
I don't.
Wait,
finale?
wait,
Joe
it was
May.
Judge.
It's Full Circle.
It was Full Circle. Oh my god, it was the Honorable. Oh fuck, what's his name? Art Vandelay.
Yeah, it was
The
Judge Vandelay.
Judge Vandelay.
Really,
Yeah.
not art, but just
But let me
anyway.
read
And George
to
is
you.
like, "Did you hear that?" And
He
Jerry's
goes,
like,
"That's got to be good news, right?"
yeah. He's like, "That's got to be good news."
So let
It's
me
like,
read
no,
to
it's
you
based on
just
a lie.
Judge Vandelay's final quote. One of, like, right before the scene you
Oh.
were talking about. This is what he says.
Yeah.
I do not know how or under what circumstances you four found each other. But your
So Larry.
careless indifference and utter disregard for everything that is good and decent has rocked the very foundation upon which our society is built. I can think of nothing more fitting than for the four of you to spend a year removed from society so that you can contemplate the manner in which you have conducted yourselves. I know I will. This court is adjourned. So it's just like, to
It's
me,
like
that's
a court
series
case about
like,
a murder, except it's just about those four people being awful people.
Except it wasn't. It was about the whole series, them being fucking assholes.
and somehow the judge, the
And it
idea
all
is
caught
that
up
the
to them.
judge, even though he doesn't know them, the judge was somehow able to get a sense of them in the same way we do by watching 9 seasons, right?
Yeah, yeah.
The judge, through the testimony of these
Of,
various
like,
people,
yeah.
were able to get a sense of, like, you
Yeah.
are for sure
Yeah.
the awful people
And
these people
Larry
say.
also
so
said,
divisive,
like, the
yeah.
only way he could have brought back these beloved characters was in this venue. What else could you have done?
Yeah.
Yeah, that wouldn't have been
Besides-
hokey and stupid.
Right.
Yeah, it's
So,
pretty
like,
genius,
yeah,
yeah.
send them to jail for having all this karma, like, catch up to them.
Or Kramer.
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 Karma Kramer.
That's Kramer for you. No, that's
Oh,
Kramer.
that's Kramer.
Yeah, there's a sense of, like, fuck.
That reminds me of that quote
They're not
from
good people.
Billy Madison, where the guy goes, "At no point,
Yeah.
at
Yeah.
any point in your
Was there anything
rambling,
close that could be considered?
I award
rational
you no.
thought?
I award you no points, and may God have mercy
Yeah.
on your soul."
So it's
It's just-
powerful.
yeah, it's very powerful, that type of monologue where it's so divisive of
At
just
no
like
point during your rambling,
Incoherent
incoherent
response,
response were
yeah.
you even close
to anything
that would be
resembling-
considered a rational thought.
I award you no points.
No, everybody in the audience
Yeah.
is now dumber for
It's
having
like
listened to this.
once you think you have them, you just dig them
Yeah.
again.
Yeah, because everybody cheers, and then the guy just goes into this like monologue, and he goes, "I award you no points, and may God have
Yeah.
mercy
He
on your
goes-
soul."
Simple wrong would have been just fine.
Which is like a simple slap on the wrist to this. The Seinfeld cast would have just been fine, right?
Yeah,
And then they go like, "All right, so we do a year."
Yeah.
Like he starts
that
with
becomes
that.
the
Like,
new reality.
it's like,
well, Larry's doing stand up in the prison.
Yeah.
in the epilogue.
what are you from Cell Block D? All right, I'll talk slower. It's like same comment.
Same everything, except it just is what it is.
So I like the finale. I think it's like
that's a good point.
But at first,
did find its ending.
I don't think you could have made anyone happy with it. But
well, because I mean, the show at that point had such insane expectations. Like the second to last episode was the Puerto Rican Day Parade episode.
Everyone's least favorite. Episode.
Pretty much everybody's like one of their least favorite episodes. And in fact, the main plot is very hokey and it's not that good. The one good like shining point of that is the laser pen.
Right.
Like it's pretty good because it has the whole Hindenburg thing. That's gotta hurt. Funny. Like that's pretty funny, but the rest of it's just not that funny. But
it's like
leading into the finale, it's like the expectations even still were so high.
Yeah, you had a show that was the #1 show on television.
Yeah,
75 million people, right, watched the finale.
It was something insane.
It was on
like
Times Square,
crazy,
like that's Super Bowl numbers.
Yeah,
and they opted out. They were like, "No, we're good. We're gonna."
I respect that.
Yeah,
me too.
Like,
but I'm just like, you weren't gonna make
today,
any fans happy that way.
Yeah.
Sure, yeah, but like,
as writers,
you're talking about Walking Dead, like how like they just like made their show like a piece of shit.
Oh, yeah, it's bullshit now.
And
yeah, it's awful.
And you know, you
the
got to
last
respect.
couple seasons are terrible.
You see the same thing in music composition, like where composers say, you know what,
well, Game of Thrones did that too. Where
not going to write another symphony
after like they got past the books and George Martin got off the show. They were like, well, we have to finish it, but they got to season 6 and people pretty much unanimously were like, the show sucks now. It's really, the writing's really bad. Can we just get to the end of this? And they're like, yeah, we can wrap it up in 8 seasons. Like,
dude, the last let's say 7 episodes of Game of Thrones.
The last season,
it became
the writing
like a movie.
The writing is so bad. It's so like
it's empty. It feels like it's all special effects and no real content.
Well, I watch it and I think about how the script must be written, and it's like, who the fuck is editing? If you just gave me the script, I'd be like, don't do this, don't do that, do this. It's like there's some common sense shit.
Don't spend 5 minutes just showing Dragon's Land. Like,
you
have
get to
character
the point
development.
Where you're out of, they're out.
Yeah. And at least
Larry, not Jerry, but Larry knew way earlier.
Yeah.
That like I want to get out before.
But part
this
of it was
gets
also
brutal.
Larry being Larry. He's like, well, I already made enough money. Like, why should I keep working?
Yes,
but Jerry had like syndication rights,
knew...
where Jerry was making bank off of. Jerry had incentive to keep going, but that was something I saw in an interview with Jason Alexander, where he said that they didn't have whatever the syndication rights were, where they got paid for like royalties on every episode that was aired. So it wasn't in their interest. They only got paid for the shows that they did. So I think it was for him and Julia, it wasn't in their interest to keep going,
right?
Because they weren't going to make that much more money,
and they didn't want to be character. Like,
and he knew that he was going to get typecast, which he did anyways.
Yeah,
and it was the same reason. Me and Luke were talking about this earlier. Steve Carell, who killed it with The Office, left after season 7. Much like Larry David left after season 7, like that seems to be a good lifespan of a show.
Yeah.
He left after season 7 because he knew he was going to get typecasted, and he, like Jason Alexander, like Steve Carell's a really good actor, so is Jason Alexander, and he knew he had to get out, or people would just be like,
they were trained actors, dude. They wanted to do something else.
And Steve Carell has gone on. Like,
Jerry was like a horrible,
Jerry's a terrible
actor. He's the worst actor in television.
He just openly laughs like throughout the series.
Because it was him.
He knew he couldn't be him unless he was being a child, right?
Yeah.
Before I forget,
don't want to be a pirate.
Yeah.
And he's fine being that.
If I have one more Treehouse, I'll forget to tell you this.
It's gonna happen.
You need this?
The guy who
Here, Joe.
Yeah, let me see this.
Auditioning for George got down to Jason Alexander and this guy.
Oh yeah.
We've talked about him today, and he was on a Seinfeld episode.
Doorman.
Yes.
Really?
Doorman audition.
Larry
for George.
something, I forget his name.
Wow.
Was down. It was him and Jason Alexander. It's
know
one
what?
of Jerry's best friends.
Really?
Obviously, we're biased, but there's no way that I could see George being anything but George. You know, because he's so perfectly pathetic and short. The Doorman's kind of tall. You know.
Yeah,
the Doorman has
you
a
have
little
to
more
be shorter.
competence.
Well, so many of the jokes become
stockier.
about George.
Stockier, yeah.
George at different
So he's
points
fat?
being. Well,
You're telling me he's fat?
well,
telling me
Elena,
he's fat?
Powerful.
Powerful. And
I seen him lift a chair over his
Right
head.
over his head.
Well,
her cheeks have a rosy hue.
Elaine
There's
calls him
a
out at a
hue.
few points where she says something that a short, stocky, bald, fat man would say.
Slow-witted.
Slow-witted.
Yeah.
And then George, when he's describing the perfect woman for Marissa Tomei. He's like, to Jerry, he says, yeah, she loves like short, stocky, fat, bald men. And Larry, Jerry says something like, I noticed you threw in whatever the last one
Yeah,
was.
whatever.
And George goes, yeah, what the hell?
Yeah.
'Cause it's like, yeah, that's
he
what you
throws in stocky, right?
Stocky,
like,
yeah.
it's gotta be.
But it's the fact that George is the shortcomings of every man.
Yeah.
In
one character.
In one character.
Including the
he's got
insecurity.
Nothing. Yeah, he's got nothing
but
going
the way
for him.
that like Marissa Tomei and George
Marissa
and Jerry
Tomei
would all
would
say
date
that,
George.
they would all say the same adjectives, like stocky and short.
Yeah.
Like characters always do that on Seinfeld. They always say the
They
same
sync up with the same weird
because
details.
they
'Cause
want it
it's-
to.
Because the
right?
whole
Like when George
universe
has
is predestined.
George has the thing, right? Everyone he asks, what do they
Yeah.
say?
Lupus.
No, it's like a
Discoloration.
It's like a white discoloration.
Yeah.
It happens
Discoloration.
like 5 times.
Whereas they could have said 8 different things.
Yeah,
they
they could've
all
been like,
say
yeah,
the
you
same
have a
thing.
thing.
Yeah. And it's all
That's
the thing that
Larry
would
Is it
make
lupus?
George
lupus.
freak out more.
Is it lupus?
Is it lupus?
So yeah, let's wrap up Seinfeld. Anything else? Like I
I'm
want to
good.
end Seinfeld in a very Seinfeld way, which is like I've had a lot of beer. Let's end it.
What's
Yeah.
the deal with being sober?
No, what is it? No learning, no hugging.
No learning, no hugging. Let's not make this episode deep because
How
if
do
we're
we-
going to make a tribute to Seinfeld, we have to end it in the most shallow way
How
possible.
do we bookend it? How did they bookend it?
How did we start
How
it?
did we
then?
start?
I don't know. I'm too
Oh,
drunk.
what beer did we start with? Do we have any more
The jerk store?
No.
All right, fuck it then.
Well then, that's
The beer
it.
store called. They're running out of you. Boo do 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 do
Oh,
do.
last thing I want to say is Seinfeld had a very unique quality, which is they broke the fourth wall in season 4 of Seinfeld. They did what they did to make Seinfeld in the show. That's worth saying.
Yeah, show within a show.
A
Yeah.
show within a show, and the whole, a lot of the details, including
Literally
down,
mock itself.
down to the detail, mock itself. It's a show about
Yeah.
nothing. It's like, no, it's not about nothing. It's about a lot of things.
about
right?
everything.
That would have been
About
kind of
everything.
that would have been
All
kind
the
of great
minutiae
if the
details,
show
yeah.
within a show took off, and then in that they made a show about a show.
Well, that's what Deadpool did, dude. Like in the fucking like breaking the fourth wall, where
Yeah.
you're in Deadpool's memories, he looks at the camera and then says like, "Hey, what's up? I'm talking to you here too." And you're like, "What the fuck? I'm
Yeah.
high. I'm in the movies.
Yeah.
What's going on?"
It's pretty
Oh,
great.
whoa.
What did I say?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Why does
I don't
Radio
know either.
Shack ask for your phone number when you buy batteries?
Another
I don't
Seinfeld
know.
reference.
Wow, it's great.
Seinfeld. You know how they say turtles all
Why
the time?
fly a kite when you can pop a pill?
Any last words? I'm about to hit stop.
No, fuck it. We'll do it live. Fuck it. We'll do it live.
We'll do it live. Peace.
Later. Like, share, and subscribe.
All right. Well, I had to run on the guys, so I hung up on them in the middle of the episode. So fuck them. I won the hang up game though. So you might be hearing this at the end. I'm sure they covered a bunch more amazing Seinfeld things, but I had to go. I got to run. Stuff comes up, you know. Thanks for coming. Sorry if this was a little too esoteric. You don't know this show. It's probably a really boring podcast. I don't know why you're still listening at this point. If you have seen Seinfeld, then hopefully you enjoyed it. And maybe there's something glaring we missed or should have pointed out, or say maybe something you've noticed that you haven't seen or we didn't cover. Throw it out at us. Crazy theories, whatever you got. We love all that shit. So, yeah. All right. Thanks, guys.